Will the head of the FCC be okay, Doctor?
If the toxoplasmosis parasite gets to his brain, I'm afraid he may lose his freedom of speech.
South Park absolutely destroyed corporate censorship, and it's fantastic. So, just recently, the 5th episode of South Park's new season just debuted on Comedy Central. South Park has been going after the Trump administration quite a bit this season, and that seems to be the running theme here. A big reason they're taking this angle is largely because they want to upset the Trump administration enough into suing Paramount, the studio that owns South Park. Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the creators of South Park, have been very open in the past about how Paramount has not been very nice to their show, especially in recent memory. There has definitely been plenty of unwanted censorship, lots of scheduling issues, and also the huge lawsuit that happened earlier this year between Warner Brothers and Paramount over the streaming rights to South Park. Because of this huge lawsuit, 2024 was basically bankrupt of any South Park content, and it's really only now that we're actually getting new South Park episodes. But Matt and Trey have been especially mad at Paramount for kowtowing to the Trump administration earlier this year when they merged with Skydance Media. This was something that affected them personally since it threw off the production of their entire new season, and as a result, they've declared war on both Paramount and Trump throughout this entire season. It's made for some pretty legendary and funny moments overall, which a lot of it feels like South Park going back to its roots. The first episode had Trump forcing South Park to make pro-Trump PSAs for him, which resulted in a deepfake of him walking around with a not very good endowment. It was quite literally hitting below the belt, and everyone loved it. The second episode took a lot of shots at ICE, and especially Kristi Noem, since she was shown shooting a bunch of dogs throughout the episode. This was because not long before the episode actually aired, the news came out that she shot her own dog in the face for being quote-unquote too dangerous.
It was a dog that was extremely dangerous. It had come to us from a family who had found her way too aggressive.
Cricket was a wire-haired pointer like this one, bred for hunting birds.
Gee, wow, she sure sounds like a nice woman, shooting Crypto even, the beacon of dog hope. But interestingly enough, for some reason, it does kind of feel like that Matt and Trey took their eyes off the Trump administration itself for the previous 2 episodes. In the 3rd episode of this season, Randy finally closed up Tegrity Farms after making a bunch of bad business choices while he was zoned out on ketamine and listening to ChatGPT tell him what to do. Yep, that's a really Randy thing to do for sure. This episode also made fun of a bunch of different tech companies for constantly kissing up to Trump just to get funding for their next projects. And while this episode was pretty good, it didn't really have the same bite that the previous 2 did, since it wasn't really targeting a specific aspect of the Trump administration. It was more tackling a general current topic, that being the over-reliance on AI, and also incorporating Trump into it. So while I wouldn't say this is a bad episode at all, I still think it was pretty funny, it definitely did not have the same bite the previous 2 did, and it's probably the weakest episode of the season so far. The 4th episode did end up being a slight improvement over this, where Butters was forced to get a Labubu doll for his girlfriend, but then learned about tariffs and how they're making things like Labubus far more expensive than they should be. This episode also ruthlessly made fun of Fox News for pretty much constantly glazing Trump in everything they do, which that was really funny.
That guy's definitely Satan. What a stud.
Yeah, Fox News.
However, while this episode was an improvement over the previous one, it still didn't really feel like it had the same fire behind it as the first 2 episodes of this season did. While they definitely were still funny, it did feel like some of the motivation had gone away from Matt and Trey, and that they weren't really sure what aspect of the Trump administration they wanted to satirize next. However, that has completely changed with this new episode, which, funny enough, was actually delayed last week. After the airing of the 4th episode on September 3rd, some things did happen that admittedly caused the future of South Park's current season to be rather uncertain. Probably the most prominent one would be the assassination of the speaker and debater Charlie Kirk, who previously had been satirized on the 2nd South Park episode.
I'm sorry, Mom. You told me to go to sleep, but I started master debating again.
While the episode featuring Cartman as a stand-in for Charlie Kirk never advocated for any kind of violence, a lot of crazy people admittedly tried to link this South Park episode to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. While these claims obviously didn't hold any water, Comedy Central did decide to pull the episode from being re-aired since there was a lot of heat surrounding the issue with Kirk overall. The episode did stay on Paramount Plus, however, and now it's currently airing on Comedy Central again. However, it's needless to say that during this time, the entire world had its eyes on South Park to see what their next episode would be and whether they would address this or not. However, the day the episode was supposed to air, September 17th, Trey Parker actually put out a message on his social media claiming the episode was delayed another week because they didn't finish it on time. This obviously caused a lot of people to speculate whether the episode was actually delayed because it wasn't finished or whether it was about the Charlie Kirk assassination and that caused Paramount to pass on it. But interestingly enough, something happened the exact same day that this episode was delayed that cleared up a lot of speculation on that. The exact same day that Trey tweeted about the show being delayed, Disney actually announced it had suspended Jimmy Kimmel on ABC, their television network, indefinitely. This was due to comments that Jimmy Kimmel had made 2 days earlier about the political leanings of the shooter of Charlie Kirk and implying that he was right-leaning. And of course, this is something that a lot of people on the MAGA side of things did not like, most notably Brendan Carr, the leader of the FCC. Brendan Carr and the FCC actually went straight to Disney and more or less strong-armed them into pulling the show. This inevitably caused a lot of people to get upset, especially a lot of celebrities in Jimmy Kimmel's circle who actually advocated for people to boycott Disney and cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions. And so, of course, immediately after seeing this, Disney decided to negotiate with Jimmy Kimmel and now he's back on the air. Huh, funny how that works. The mouse wants his money. So after seeing how the FCC tried to deal with Disney and also admittedly having a lot of their own struggles with the FCC in the past, Matt and Trey seem to have the perfect target for this week's episode. And oh boy, did they absolutely go all in on the FCC, censorship in general, Donald Trump's son, social gambling, and the war on Gaza. This episode packed a heck of a lot into just 22 minutes, which is exactly why all the background I just stated is really important going into this. So now that we discussed the seed where this episode sprouted from, let's talk about the episode itself and why it's amazing and why it's far better than the last 2 episodes here. The episode opens up with Mr. Garrison introducing a new student into the boys' class who explains that they're a Weebelo and part of that scout troop. However, the class seems a lot more interested in debating whether this Weebelo is a guy or a girl. So after class, they start betting on the odds of the Weebelo being either a guy or a girl on a social gambling app that they explain to Kyle allows them to bet on things happening around the world and also at their own school.
Yeah, it's social platform betting. People can make any bet they want and then other users take them up on it. Really? Yeah, it's pretty sweet, dude. People bet on anything, even stuff here at the SKU.
This obviously is directly making fun of actual social gambling apps that exist like this, such as Polymarket. Yes, believe it or not, this actually is a real thing. Apps like Polymarket do allow their users to bet on real-life events and the odds of certain outcomes occurring from them. For instance, you can go there right now and actually bet on whether Zootopia 2 or the Minecraft movie will be the highest grossing film of 2025. Or you can bet on whether the US will confirm that aliens exist in 2025. Jesus Christ. Obviously, an app like this is ripe for mockery, and Matt and Trey have taken it upon themselves to completely roast Polymarket throughout this entire episode, and it's fantastic. However, it looks like one bet has shown up on Polymarket that makes Kyle very, very unhappy, and rightfully so.
Will there be a snow day this month? Will Kyle's mom strike Gaza and destroy a Palestinian hospital? Will school lunch have tater tots next week? Wait, what was that? Why the hell would my mom destroy a Palestinian hospital? 'Cause she's a Jew?
Yep, it looks like Kyle's mom has mysteriously shown up on this social gambling app and now people are betting whether she'll go to Gaza and destroy a Palestinian hospital. I wonder who would have made this bet show up on this site. Who do we know in this show that doesn't like Kyle, doesn't like his family, and also doesn't like the Jews? Quite a mystery there, but surprisingly, it turns out that Cartman actually wasn't the one who put up this bet. However, Kyle is incredibly upset at seeing his mom in this app and vows he's gonna go and try to figure out who put it up there. And of course, Cartman being Cartman, this causes him to hatch a plan. Cartman realizes that if he keeps bringing up Gaza to Kyle and keeps rage baiting him into getting upset over that, he can actually cause the odds on the app to go up even higher for Kyle's mom going to Gaza and blowing up a Palestinian hospital, as ridiculous as that is. He also realizes he can say a lot of anti-Semitic things to the kids at the school to cause them to bet even harder on Kyle's mom blowing up a hospital, which is a very Cartman thing to do, of course. And of course, he knows this will just upset Kyle even more, which he just wants to sit back and watch. Man, Cartman really never changes, does he?
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Kyle gets incredibly upset at seeing the odds on his mom blowing up a hospital get even higher, since obviously he doesn't know what Cartman's doing behind the scenes. He sees that even Jimmy bet on this, so he goes to talk to Jimmy, and their conversation is pretty awesome.
I'm asking, why did you bet yes that my mom would strike Gaza? Israel and Gaza is a very serious matter. Oh, I know, Kyle. I told a joke about Gaza on a Zoom meeting yesterday, and nobody laughed. I guess it's not even remotely funny. Wow, what a terrific audience.
Jimmy, please never change. Meanwhile, while Kyle's unknowingly getting trolled by Cartman, Trump and Satan are talking about their butt baby that they're having, which was brought up in the last episode. And of course, Fox News is all over this as well, glazing Trump and Satan having a butt baby together, which was in the last episode also. However, Trump is now having second thoughts on having a butt baby with Satan since he realizes he won't be able to do a lot of things after having to care for a baby. So he makes up his mind that he has to try to get the baby killed while it's still inside Satan, so he asks Satan if he wants to get in a hot tub with him and smoke cigarettes. Satan, however, sees through this pretty easily, so Trump realizes he's gonna need something else to try to get the baby killed that's not as easy to see through. Meanwhile, Kyle's become incredibly fed up with seeing so many of his classmates bet on his mom blowing up a Palestinian hospital, so he decides he has to finally get the bet taken down. He decides to call the person that runs all these apps, who, of course, is none other than Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, is this the strategic advisor for predictive markets?
Yes, it is.
And yes, this is directly mirroring reality too, since Donald Trump's son does run both Polymarket and Kalshi, the two biggest social gambling apps. Man, sometimes it feels like we're living in a South Park episode. However, Donald Trump Jr. tells Kyle that he actually has to call the CFTC to get the bet taken down, so Kyle does so, but unfortunately, it's just Donald Trump Jr. on the other line again. Kyle's pretty bewildered at this, but he decides to ignore it and asks him to take down the bet, but then Donald Trump Jr. tells him that he actually has to call the FCC to get the bet taken down. Kyle's getting pretty fed up with this, but decides to go along with it and calls the FCC, where Brendan Carr is waiting on the other line. However, he's not even the one who answers because Donald Trump Jr. just comes in again and answers the phone again. Absolutely amazing. Kyle's pretty angry at this point and demands that Brendan Carr actually take the bet down. Brendan Carr finally obliges and goes straight to Trump to try to get the offensive bet taken down. Unfortunately for Brendan, he comes in at the exact moment that Trump is trying to pull some Tom and Jerry type shenanigans to kill Satan's baby. He's put a tie rope over the stairs and also layered the stairs with Crisco to try to get Satan to slip up and hopefully kill the baby, but unfortunately Brendan Carr does this instead. Whoops! I guess that's what happens when you break the First Amendment and also pressure Disney to get Jimmy Kimmel fired. Meanwhile, not only have the kids at South Park Elementary been rage baiting Kyle and getting the odds up on his mom going to blow up a hospital in Gaza, it seems now also the adults of South Park have gotten in on this, since a lot of the moms are talking to Kyle's mom and trying to rage bait her as well. They intentionally ask her about her opinion on Gaza and also try to stoke a fire within her about it as well. I love how South Park often portrays the adults as just as immature, if not more immature, than the kids oftentimes. Sharon is the only sane adult in all of South Park, I swear to God. Even little Ike is betting on his own mom going to Gaza and blowing up a hospital. This is absolutely crazy. Meanwhile, Trump is trying everything he can to get rid of Satan's baby by putting Plan B in his soup and also dumping an entire litter box on him, as well as plenty more Looney Tunes type shenanigans, but unfortunately Brendan Carr always interrupts him unintentionally every time. And of course he keeps getting injured in the worst possible way too while this happens. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Kyle's mom finally gets fed up with everybody asking her about Gaza and decides to try and go and find out who set up the bet to begin with. And so, unfortunately, in doing this, she does what everyone wanted her to do and goes straight to Gaza. Kyle tries to convince his mom to stop, but unfortunately she isn't listening at all and gets straight on the plane to go to Gaza. Given this is the same woman that declared war on Canada and tried to get its two biggest TV stars executed, this isn't really surprising at all. Kyle's mom can be pretty crazy sometimes. Meanwhile, at South Park Elementary the very next day, Cartman is gleefully gloating about how he got the bets on Kyle's mom up to 95%.
I did it. You did what? I talked so much about the Jews that I got the odds on the bet up to 95%.
Now it seems that the vast majority of people think that Kyle's mom is gonna go to Gaza and destroy a Palestinian hospital. Seeing that his rage baiting paid off and now everyone is betting yes, Cartman goes ahead and bets $1,400 on no, knowing that he'll probably win the bet here. Unfortunately, it's this exact morning that Cartman finds out from Jimmy that Kyle's mom has gone to Gaza. And it's because of this that he sees his rage baiting worked a little too well and now it's beginning to backfire on him. He knows with Kyle's mom in Gaza, if she actually does go and blow up a Palestinian hospital, he'll lose all that money and his mom will be furious at him. He immediately goes to Kyle and tries to convince him to convince his mom to get out of Gaza and not blow up a hospital. The irony is absolutely delicious here. Kyle isn't really sure what he can actually do to get his mom to stop, however, since her phone apparently isn't working over in Israel. And of course, the embassy for Israel turns out to be none other than Donald Trump Jr. again. This guy seems to run almost every job for the Trump administration in this episode, but does all of them really poorly. It's kind of really funny to see him fumble at almost every task he's given here. Kyle tells Donald Trump Jr. again that he wants the bet taken down, but Donald Trump Jr. just tells him that the FCC is still currently reviewing it. Kyle demands to know what the FCC has actually been doing this whole time when we find out that Brendan Carr is now currently in the hospital. He's fallen down the stairs, he's had explosive diarrhea, and he's also had an entire box of kitty litter dumped on him, so he's not in good shape at all. And of course, while he's hospitalized here, he just so happens to be doing, that pose with his right arm. Matt and Trey, you are absolute geniuses. I honestly really like this because I've noticed a lot of other people haven't even noticed the fact that he's doing that salute with his arm while he's hospitalized here. It's not really directly called attention to here in this episode, so you probably only notice it if you're actually looking at his position, so it's kind of just subtle enough for the eagle-eyed viewer. They absolutely made him pull an Elon Musk, and I find that very on brand for the person that a lot of people have called out for cracking down on the freedom of speech. The doctors come in and tell Brendan Carr that he might now have toxic plasmosis from all the cat feces that he encountered when a litter box was dumped on him. JD Vance comes in as well to check in on Brendan Carr, and the doctor tells Vance exactly this.
His bones are healing, so he may regain full range of motion, but if the toxoplasmosis parasite gets to his brain, I'm afraid he may lose his freedom of speech.
And it's here we get to the real heart of the episode. Brendan Carr is someone that has been called out by a lot of people now for bringing the idea of the First Amendment and freedom of speech into question. He and the current leadership of the FCC in general have pretty much cracked down on anyone that criticizes Trump or the Trump administration. One of the major instances of this that South Park also directly commented on was when Stephen Colbert had his show canceled by Paramount earlier this year. Specifically, his show was pulled for criticizing Paramount for betting that they needed Trump for pulling an interview with Kamala Harris that Trump really didn't like. Trump initially sued Paramount for $10 billion, which caused Paramount to panic, and they eventually settled for $16 million. During this time, Trump also forced Skydance Media to merge with Paramount to make sure that Paramount would do pro-Trump PSAs going forward. Which, of course, this merger did affect Matt and Trey personally and caused the new season of South Park to get delayed in the first place. And that's exactly why they made fun of both Paramount and Trump in the first episode of this season, and also made fun of Paramount for doing pro-Trump PSAs in the first place. More recently, however, the FCC and Brendan Carr came after Disney for what Jimmy Kimmel said about Charlie Kirk's killer on his late night show, which is aired on ABC, which is owned by Disney. As a result of this, Kimmel's late night show ended up being suspended indefinitely by Disney almost immediately, which caused a huge uproar by a lot of people. Celebrities and general audiences alike started to boycott Disney and cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions, and you even saw Disney adults boycotting Disney as well, which is almost unheard of. Disney adults were literally canceling their Disney parks trips, which you almost never see. While most boycotts are really ineffective, if I'm being completely honest, this one actually did seem to work. It ended up being a big enough deal that even a media giant like Disney ended up trying to negotiate with Kimmel, and he eventually did get back on the air. I find it really funny that there was enough of an uproar and clamor for Disney to bring back Kimmel even after Trump himself tried to say this.
Chat show host in America last night, Mr. Kimmel. Is free speech more under attack in Britain or America?
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not.
It's honestly pretty ridiculous because Kimmel didn't even say anything about Charlie Kirk himself. He was talking about the killer. Yet it seems like a lot of people have ran with the narrative of Kimmel trying to diss Charlie Kirk and being disrespectful about him, when really, if you watch the clip, that didn't happen at all.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Everything Kimmel said here seems to have been completely twisted, and that caused Disney to eventually suspend him. Thankfully, in this situation, it does seem like enough people had common sense, or perhaps just really like Jimmy Kimmel enough to clamor at Disney to bring him back. But I find this really interesting since previously when Colbert was canceled, Trump actually said a lot of the same things he said about Kimmel here in that tweet as well. When Paramount initially canceled Colbert and The Late Show altogether despite being on the air for 30 years now, Trump tweeted out this: "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings. I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next. Has even less talent than Colbert. Greg Gutfield is better than all of them combined, including the moron in NBC who ruined the once great Tonight Show." Jesus Christ. The interesting thing about this though is that Kimmel was mentioned in this tweet from 2 months ago now. Colbert is already done, unfortunately, and also his show altogether is just going off the air in May of next year. Paramount has no plans whatsoever to reinstate The Late Show, so once that goes off the air in May of next year, that's gone forever. Which is kind of insane given that's been on the air for 30 years now. Kimmel was much more fortunate and was able to negotiate with Disney and ABC and get his show reinstated, but who knows how long that might last for either. Trump recently posted that he plans to sue Disney again, seeing that they now put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air, so I guess we'll see where things go with that. Who knows, maybe South Park will end up satirizing that even further in a later episode as well, since they haven't been shy about taking shot at Disney in the past for sure. However, it seems like the tables have really turned in this episode, since now Brendan Carr is the one stuck in the hospital in this pose in this particular salute, and he's the one having his freedom of speech threatened because of this disease that's gonna affect his brain. The irony is very clearly intentional here on Matt and Trey's part, and this makes sense since they are probably two of the most pro-anti-censorship people ever. They and South Park as a show have pretty much always been about anti-censorship and free speech. That has always been at the core of Matt and Trey and South Park's personal values, and that's interesting to see here flipped on Brendan Carr, someone who's been very against that. But now it seems that JD Vance is taking this opportunity to do a surprise twist villain reveal and also pull his own Brendan Carr impression.
I'm next in line to be president. That baby cannot be born. And if you continue to interfere, I will make things very difficult for you. We can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way.
Apparently, even from the very start, JD Vance has been wanting to kill Trump's baby so he can take his place as president. This was a twist that and I think a lot of other people, really didn't see coming at all. So far in this season, JD Vance has probably been the most unassuming character in the entire show, since he's just a caricature of Tattoo from Fantasy Island with JD Vance's face plastered on him. But now, we see that he's been a twist villain the entire time and been incredibly capable and diabolical with his intentions. He's been biding his time, pun intended, to try to wait for Trump to either die off or have his baby killed so he can inherit the presidency. And naturally, this actually does mirror real-world politics as well, since this is something that JD Vance has commented on himself. He has mentioned that after Donald Trump's term, he wants to try to take the presidency for his own as well. Despite the fact, at this point, he's probably one of the most memed-on political figures in US history. But it seems that South Park did take notice of his comments and has been slowly building him up as a twist villain here for this exact moment. JD Vance is very upset at Brendan Carr for seemingly getting in the way of all of his attempts to try to get Trump to kill his own baby. And it's here that JD gives Brendan a very ominous and very ironic message.
We can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way.
For those who may remember, these were the exact words that Brendan himself told Benny Johnson on his podcast when talking about what the FCC was likely going to do to Disney.
I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel.
And in an ironic twist, now that he's in a position where his freedom of speech is being threatened, Brendan is being told this exact same thing by JD Vance. The irony here is absolutely fantastic, and the message from Matt and Trey about freedom of speech is very clear. After this, we see Donald Trump Jr. deciding to take on the FCC's role of taking the bet on Kyle's mom down, since the FCC obviously is still in the hospital. And of course, since he seems to do every job in the Trump administration himself, this just results in him talking to himself, which is pretty funny. After After this conversation with himself, the bet does go down on the app, which causes a lot of the kids at South Park Elementary to get pretty upset since they had all their money bet on Kyle's mom going to Gaza and blowing up a hospital. After this, it seems that things have finally cooled down at the school, and now Cartman and Kyle are sitting calmly next to each other on the school playground, which is kind of a rare sight for this show. Cartman claims that he's pretty glad now that people won't be able to profit off of Kyle's mom, yeah right, but Kyle states that he knows they all would have lost the bet anyway, since he knows his mom went to Israel to not blow up a Palestinian hospital, but rather to find the person causing all this mess and give them a piece of her mind. Which, of course, is none other than Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel himself. Kyle's mom really lets him have it, since at this point she's not even upset at him making things difficult for her as a Jewish woman. She's honestly just flamed up about him making things difficult for Jewish people in America and all over the world.
Just who do you think you are? Killing thousands and flattening neighborhoods, then wrapping yourself in Judaism like it's some shield from criticism.
Everything he is doing is giving Jewish people a bad name, and she's really letting him have it over this. Given the fact that Matt Stone himself is actually Jewish, I feel like this is a lot of his own sentiments on the matter spoken through Kyle's mom. Especially given how passionate this speech is, and knowing he is a pretty famous Jewish person, I imagine life hasn't really been easy for him either with everything going on. And that's it. That's where this episode ends. Honestly, I think this is a really good episode, and I'd put it up there with the first two. Like I said before, I wasn't really as big on episodes 3 and 4 since they didn't really feel like they had the same venom to them as the first 2 episodes of this season. But likely due to the FCC interfering with their own show, it feels like Matt and Trey have really come back in this 5th episode. They really went after the idea of freedom of speech and what that means in 2025 in some really entertaining and also just genuinely thought-provoking ways. That's really what I like about South Park as a show, is because it manages to be a really funny satire of society, and as a result really makes people think about society and how it operates. Only a show like South Park that basically builds its entire identity around satirizing current events and culture can pull off something like this. I think it's really good that they went as hard on the idea and concept of freedom of speech today as they did in the first episode of this season. I guess it helps that they had yet another late night talk show host getting canceled to motivate them to really touch on that. Matt and Trey have always been about freedom of speech and against censorship, and I feel like this new season especially has really been doubling down on that, and rightfully so. Matt and Trey are also very aware that this might come at the cost of their own show, probably more than ever before, but given they have a $1.5 deal inked from Paramount, I think it's safe to say they're pretty set for life now. All in all, this is a really good episode, and I hope the rest of this season manages to be at this caliber in general. The next episode comes out October 15th, so I guess we'll see when that comes out, and I'll see y'all then reviewing this as well. I've been loving this new season, and I'm glad I get to review it for all of you. But what do you think? Have you been enjoying the new season of South Park, or do you think it's lame and uninteresting? And what did you think of this episode if you've seen it already? Let me know in the comments below. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video or learned something new from it. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a like, and also consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do lots of videos covering film and animation topics overall, so if you like this video, you'll probably like the other videos I have planned as well. At 40,000 subscribers, I'll be doing a ranking video of every South Park special event, so make sure you subscribe if you want to see that especially. If there's a specific topic you think I should cover here on YouTube, let me know in the comments below. You can also follow me on all my socials like Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all those are linked down in the description below. You can also check out my letterbox to see different film and show reviews that I've done on there as well. A lot of the times those are films and shows that I won't review here on YouTube. You can also join my Discord to meet like-minded film and animation fans overall. Special thanks to my patrons DGC1996, Trayvon Gibson, Sparky Fluffles, MMBY123, Eliza Feller, Geothermal Penguin, Sasha Blasik, You the Guardian, David Dicer, Jared the Rabbit, and Valve Games for supporting me over there. Patrons get exclusive content and also get exclusive reactions of me reacting to different South Park episodes and other films and shows overall. I appreciate y'all's support with the extra monetary effort to keep me doing what I do here, and I appreciate you for coming to the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it or learned something new from it. But for now, I've been Otterly Noah, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye!
Freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Steven off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous.